Hi, everyone, and welcome to Bitcoin and Beyond. I am Melanie Carstens, and I am your host today. Today, I'm joined by Robin from the co-founder and CEO of Liquidium, which is one of the most exciting platforms, I think, shaping the infrastructure of what we can do with Bitcoin going forward. We're going to be talking about Robin's journey into Bitcoin, what it's been like building in this fast-paced environment, and just going to take it from there. It's a very casual show, and Robin, I hope you just enjoy yourself, and we'll see where it goes. Before we do that, though, I just want to let everybody know that we have no sponsors. This is independent Bitcoin media, so if you do feel inclined, we're going to pop in the comments later a link for where you can support us. So that would be most appreciated, and that goes for my collaborators as well: Peace Love Music, Deorganized Media, and Bitcoin Live DB. Okay, so I am Melanie, as I said, and we are joined by Robin. Welcome, Robin. So nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah, I've actually wanted to talk to you. We ended up, it took a long time to get the episode. And then I ended up not feeling so well last week. So we finally, third time lucky. I normally start the show just kind of asking people to share their Bitcoin story, how they found their way to Bitcoin, to Stacks. I know you started building first on Stacks and then back to Bitcoin. So yeah, how did it all come around for you?
Yeah, so as you already said, for us, it all started on Stacks. I guess I can talk about like how we even started on Stacks a little bit. So
I think I want to, sorry to interrupt you. I kind of want to hear almost like, because we will talk about Liquidium. I want to know if there's a personal story, like when you came across it. Was it because some people say, some people have the craziest stories, and some people just like me came along, found it, and then kind of ended up on Stack. So yeah.
So I mean, then I can talk about my personal story of how I got here. So kind of like when I'm quite a young founder, so I don't have like that long of a Bitcoin story yet, I would say. I kind of came into the space late 2019, early 2020. But the way I got here is that I was interested in kind of like tech and also finance stuff very early on. I actually created like a virtual trading broker account when I was 12 for the first time.
This is why I love people's Bitcoin stories, because generally they start with something like this. Okay, so
Yeah.
you were brokering at 12.
Yeah. So I just traded like I couldn't create a real trading account at that time, obviously, because you do have to do KYC, and they don't let people in that are less than 18 years old, at least in Europe. So started with sort of this virtual trading account with virtual money. And I just wanted to kind of like play around with it. And I had some favorite companies that I really liked and saw kind of like them growing over time with what they were doing. And so I put my 25,000 virtual dollars into NVIDIA, Tesla, and Apple, and I think a bunch of other companies. And then kind of like fast forward to when I was 18, that account was worth a lot.
Yeah, those
And I was like, I should have
choices.
just asked my parents to create a real account for me or something like that.
Yeah, those were really good choices.
Yeah. But I mean, TSMC as well. TSMC, I think they were one of the best performers actually. But so then basically when I turned 18, the day I turned 18, I set up my first real trading account with real money,
Wow.
and then I like did more deep dive into the companies that I like. and general like investment instruments. And that's when I also came across Bitcoin, not for the first time. I've heard of it like before that a couple times, but that was like the first time I really had a deep dive into it to understand what it's doing. And it really fascinated me because compared to traditional companies and stocks that you're investing in, the blockchain or like Bitcoin is an entire network that you're basically investing in. So Bitcoin was almost like if you would be able to buy a share of the internet, instead of just buying shares of individual companies that are built on the internet. So I think that was like extremely interesting to me. And naturally, then also I wanted to see what is being built on the blockchain. So I started looking into like Ethereum, Solana. I still remember first time I saw Solana. That was like it was at like $4 or something like that. And I
Remember
was like,
those
oh,
days?
Solana looks cool. It's from Switzerland. That's neighboring country of Germany. And so let's just buy it. I like Switzerland, whatever. And then it went up to like $8 or something, and I sold it again. So shouldn't have done that.
Like also part of everybody's story, isn't it?
Yeah. But like during that research phase, I guess, I was really intrigued by the ability to build stuff and create things on the blockchain, and like build tools and companies and whatever, and networks on top of the blockchain technology. So obviously Ethereum and Solana and so on allowed you to build things, and but then also I love Bitcoin for the reasons of it being kind of like the largest network and most decentralized, most secure, and kind of like the godfather of crypto to some degree. And that was a conflict where I didn't know really like what to do. Like, should I like go further into the whole Ethereum stuff, or should I go further into the Bitcoin stuff? So I kind of like went to CoinMarketCap and looked at the description of every single coin, and then I think Stacks was there in the top 100 somewhere, deep down in the top 100. And I read it. I read the description of it, and it literally was that thing that I was looking for at that time. So
When you
giving
found
you
you saw Stacks.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So because Stacks was kind of that thing where you can build things on top of, like it's a network, like a programmable blockchain. But at the same time, it also has strong ties to Bitcoin. And it like sort of like the community of Stacks, I think they're all the same in the sense that they want to bring Bitcoin DeFi forward. They don't care too much about like the network or blockchain or whatever it's built on. Like the main thing is like the ties to Bitcoin and making Bitcoin more programmable.
And I think building a quality product that you can do that with as well, because there are many products that you can do it with. Specifically now, they're sort of popping out of the woodwork left, right, and center. But I think the core ethos for me is that, sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to give a nod to the community and how committed they are to building on the right thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not just like
100%. Yeah, 100% agree. And I mean, like that was 2020, 2021 ish. So at that time, there weren't a lot of like network or blockchains that took that approach of being as close to Bitcoin as possible. So Stacks really stood out, and the more I learned about it, the more I liked it, and the whole idea of it. The community is fantastic. I absolutely love everybody from the Stacks ecosystem. I think it's one of the most open communities because they like their back bias is almost Bitcoin. So it's kind of like everybody is can relate to that, which is nice. And so then I tried to learn more about Stacks. I was also liking the idea of NFTs, sort of having a certificate, a digital certificate of ownership, and Stacks were also new. Stacks NFTs were also new at that time. I think the first marketplace there that I used was called stacksart.com.
Oh, Stacks Art.
Stacks,
Yeah,
yeah, Stacks.
there was Jamil who
Yeah.
he literally made the marketplace because he wanted a view, because there was Dan. Dan had Boom.
Yeah, Dan had Boom.
And you could go and mint those, and then, but it was this like, it was basically, it wasn't really it wasn't an easy thing to kind of navigate. Clunky, it was all clunky back then. And then there was Hey Layer.
Yep.
And then there was Stacks NFT, I think is what Jamil, what Tri-Gamma, or what Gamma was before.
Yeah, exactly. So I still remember when Stacks NFT came out, but like I think the two first ones were Stacks Art, but they then at some point rugged, so that wasn't great. But they were the leading marketplace, like I think way back in the beginnings of Stacks NFTs. And then the other one that was also there very early on was Byzantium.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and then Stacks NFT came out. It was honestly, I mean, as much as I love the Gamma team, but stacksnft.com was terrible.
Yeah.
When
Amazing,
it came out.
how they really, I mean, now it's probably one of the best looking.
Yes, 100%. They nailed it in terms of like just launching an MVP and then making it better and better. And then obviously with the rebrand to Gamma as well and so on, like I think they did so many things right and really built a fantastic Stacks NFT marketplace. But yeah, I kind of like been through all of that journey of Stacks, and then I also wanted to like not only buy and sell NFTs and maybe create some NFTs and sell them, but also build infrastructure for NFTs on Stacks. So that's kind of when I got into the brainstorming phase, late 2021, beginning of 2022, where
Megapont. Megaponts and Crash Punks. I'll sort of like define the months by what was going on in the NFT. I'm like, when you say November, I think Crash Punks. October, Megapont.
Yeah, Megapont and Crash Punks. They were definitely the big boys on Stacks.
Anyway, sorry.
But yeah, so that's kind of like how I then got into the idea of creating some toolings for NFTs. Originally, actually, I don't think a lot of people know that. The original idea was to build an NFT swap. So basically, no monetary, like you don't have to put money in it. You can just swap one NFT for another. So I give you my Crash Punk, you give me your Megapont, and that's just basically an over-the-counter trade without a marketplace involved. But then it turned out that this is not a huge pain point for the users. And I did some more digging, and then I came across the idea of NFT lending. So I talked to a lot of the people from the Stacks NFT space, did user interviews, and kind of like looked at their wallet and saw that so many people had a lot of NFTs. They had like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of NFTs in their wallet sometimes, and they only had like 30 stacks in liquidity. And then I was like, oh, hold up. Okay, this might actually be something. So I started like interviewing a lot of these people and just asking them like, hey, so I saw you have like very little liquidity, but a lot of NFTs. Are you planning to sell these NFTs, or like how are you planning to do more in the Stacks ecosystem if you plan on holding the NFTs? And they said like, yeah, they don't really want to sell their NFTs, but they would still love to have liquidity to do other things and to like maybe trade a little bit to get some money or invest in other projects, or flip some collections here or there or whatever. So that's basically how then Liquidium was born. And we built a first version, a Stacks NFT lending platform. And then obviously Ordinals came out, and that's how we then went over to Bitcoin and left our stack story behind us.
Yeah, and I mean, I think realistically it makes sense, because if you are going to lend, I think the document I said I was writing before we came on has got a lot to do with the sort of expansion of the NFT market, and I think it is huge, and I think we haven't even started thinking properly. We obviously can't, because they're still building the sort of the rails and the finance side of things, which needs to work first before we do those. But I think there's such a huge market of things to do with NFTs going forward. But I think with what you're doing, it just makes total sense to do it with Ordinals, because that's where right now all your high value things are going to go onto directly onto Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's also why we then, like, obviously, ever since we started building on native Bitcoin with Ordinals, we actually started building the Ordinal lending platform way back in February of 2023. So basically a couple of days after the Ordinals white paper was released, when there were no marketplaces, no wallets that were Ordinals compatible and so on, was still the times of using Sparrow wallet.
Sparrow, oh my God.
Yep.
Don't even say that, because I think I've got post-traumatic stress disorder from Sparrow wallet alone. I still have all my early NFTs, Ordinals, are in Sparrow, and I'm too scared to even open them, because I think to myself, because I remember the time everybody was saying, oh, just be careful. I didn't even know what like a UTXO was, I knew nothing of what, and it was just like, be careful, you're going to send your this and your that. I was just like, okay. So they're still in there. I'm waiting for one day for somebody to say, here's a tool, you just press a button and all your Ordinals are going to come out. So yeah, I hope but I remember that. So fun.
Yeah, these were good times. Google spreadsheets as the marketplaces, and then Discord to process the actual buys and sells. But yeah, I mean, obviously we've come a very long way since then.
Yeah, such great memories.
Yeah, 100%. And
so that's when Liquidium, that's when you sort of started building the Ordinals side of Liquidium then.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, ever since then, like ever since the inception of Ordinals, there have been many like layer 2s, meta protocols and stuff like that also came to Bitcoin, and they wanted to kind of like bring developers to build there. But as you said, like, we chose Ordinals because we are a lending platform, which means it makes sense to have the most valuable pieces as something that you can borrow against. So we really wanted to have that as close to Bitcoin as possible, and it doesn't get closer than using native Bitcoin. So that's why we ended up building on Ordinals, and also continue to just have like layer 1 Bitcoin as our primary focus. I think there are don't get me wrong, like I think there are fantastic use cases, especially if you need like low fees, high frequency, fast confirmations and stuff like that. I think there is basically there are many protocols that benefit from a sidechain or from a layer 2 or something like that. But in our case, it's just like you want to borrow against your most valuable assets, so it makes sense if it's on layer 1 Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's room to go around for everything. And like I said just now, not everything has to be on Bitcoin. It's kind of like people are like, well, it's not worth anything. And I'm like, well, you don't want your concert tickets or your coupon for 65 cents off your milk on Bitcoin, and I think that's where people have to also start thinking about, finding your market. You can't go onto Bitcoin, especially one day imagine when the fees are going to be so high, and try and find a market. But anyway, that's fantastic. And are you still in any way linked to Stacks, or has it just been a complete move over to Ordinals?
Oh, well, I mean, obviously we're still in touch with many of these Stacks companies. Back when we did look into Ordinals, and then also decided to kind of pivot to layer 1 Bitcoin with Ordinals, we obviously brought a bunch of other Stacks people with us, like, for example, Xverse and and Gamma also at that time, and so on. So Ordinals bought is a company that kind of like Brian, the founder, is has done Stacks NFT collections and so on. So like even in the current Ordinals ecosystem, I think there are very strong roots, strong roots to Stacks still, because we were all kind of like born on Stacks.
I still think of you as Stacks. It's so weird, but that's because where I knew the build from originally, you know?
Yeah. So I mean, like, while we don't have a product on Stacks, I'm still very much in touch with the Stacks community and like checking out what's going on. Tycho is a great friend of mine, with Zest Protocol. Jakob and I have a great relationship with Hermetica. So all good friends. I love the Stacks community.
Yeah. And you just also never know. You know, we don't know. You know, the day before we heard about Ordinals, we had no idea about Ordinals, but it was being cooked. We don't know what's going to be cooked up in the next month, let alone the next year. So, you know, sort of going back to your original journey, I'm just interested in that. You kind of like, you spoke about, at 12, already developing an interest for kind of, you were trading in your own way. Tell us about your journey through kind of school and educate, or your early education, and then before you got here, because I think I read somewhere you were with Apple for a time. Is that right? You had like quite a couple of interesting stops along the way before you ended up working as a founder. And do you do this? Is this your 100% all in position?
Yeah. So, I mean, do you want to hear a condensed version of the story or the whole thing?
Well, you choose. I'm happy to listen. We've got an hour. This is about you and
All right.
Liquidium.
Let's do it then. So I mean, let's try to get that in the right order. So I guess like the first. So as I said, like around age of 12 is when I kind of like looked into like all of like how trading works, how these money markets work. This was actually like my I have an older brother, and he had to download this virtual trading app for school. They had some economics class where they basically did that, and I saw that and I was like, oh, cool, I want to try that too. So that's how I got into that early on. And then I was a big gamer when I was young, so I always kind of like spent time on my computer. And then like back in the days, I don't know if this is a global thing or just German, but there's something called pay-safe cards, which are like basically coupons that you can get at a gas station, and then you can redeem that money in games and stuff like that. So
You can get for Apple, for Netflix, for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. So
a similar concept.
Yeah, and so I always wanted to buy like new games or DLCs in games or whatever. So I then created like a little side hustle where I actually learned Photoshop and Cinema 4D to make like thumbnails and banners and profile pictures and stuff like that for my favorite Let's Players on YouTube, and sold it to them. And then I got PaySafe cards from them, so I could like spend the money on games. That was kind of like the first thing that I did. And then a couple years later, 2-3 years later, I started learning how to repair phones, because my phone was broken, and then I got like a toolkit to repair it, and I figured out it's not really difficult to repair a screen. So then I kind of made that into a small business where I repaired like phones from my friends and people from school. And then it got to a point where every day when I went home from school, I had like 3 or 4 phones in my backpack to repair them at home. Wow. And it was really like a good business back then.
Yeah. That is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the second thing that I did. And then worked for like I guess then at that time, around that time, I also started working like during school part-time for a little IT company, and that wasn't too exciting. But then basically school ended. I did my I guess that would be high school degree, yeah. So just like finished the regular school, and then I did some freelancing, like just building some websites for other companies. And also at that time, kind of like at the same time, I started working at Apple at the Genius Bar, just because I had this experience with repairing phones. So I didn't do anything crazy at Apple, just like
But so
repairing
you didn't
phones.
study. You just kind of just thought, you carried on being a little entrepreneur as that was your journey, a kind of a very
Yeah, kind of.
entrepreneurial.
So when I was that was when I was like, now we're talking about roughly like when I was 18.
Okay.
And so 18 was when I started working at Apple. I did that for about a year, and while I was working at Apple, I then stopped doing the freelancing website building things, and actually that's the time I started kind of like investing real money and looking into all of the blockchain stuff. So that was also the time when I got into the whole Stacks NFT space and conceptualized the early beginnings of Liquidium. My parents always wanted me to study, so I did go to university
Okay.
at age 19. I think, yeah, should be 19. And then during university, I studied UI design and management. During the university, I did build Liquidium, basically. And then it got to a point where basically during the classes, I only did Liquidium stuff. And luckily, the teachers were very nice. And because I did study UI design, basically all the things that I did for Liquidium, I could present in class and was graded on them. But then after about like half a year or so, it really got too much doing both things at the same time and trying to like really put time into Liquidium. And then I kind of made a deal with my parents and said like, hey, if I raise enough money with Liquidium that I can pay myself a salary for the next couple of years, then I will quit university. And then they said, okay, fine. If you really do that, you can do that. And I think they didn't think that I would do that.
Yeah.
So, but then I
And you
did
did
it.
it.
We
Wow.
raised money and I quit university. And ever since then, it's full-time Liquidium.
That is crazy. What a story. What a fantastic, inspiring story. I love people who kind of don't follow the traditional rules because I think most people who are incredibly successful pretty much haven't followed the rules that we were told to follow when we were young. You know what I mean? It's kind of, you end up going on these lovely, interesting, windy paths. So, what a great story. Thank
Yeah, I
you
mean, it's
for,
always like I always like to put my time where I had most fun. So
yeah,
Liquidium is a lot of fun. That's why I'm
yeah,
doing it.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing. So, you mentioned just now that you are a gamer, or you said you were a gamer, which I don't know if that means you don't have time anymore or you just don't like it anymore. But two questions, maybe three. Have you stopped gaming? What did you like gaming? And what do you do in your spare time if you don't game?
So I did game a lot when I was young. I stopped it pretty much entirely. I think I haven't played a game in 4 or 5 years now.
Wow.
Um, I mean, I'm always intrigued by playing some new game that comes out or whatever, but I don't really find a lot of time. And then there is so many other things that are
Yeah,
more interesting to me right now, that I rather want to spend my free time on.
true.
So it's, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember when there was the point where I just stopped it. But I think it was kind of like because I had then different things that I was playing around with, like, for example, UI design was something that I really loved doing, and that was just so much fun that I didn't really spend time on gaming anymore, because it was more fun to design websites and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And kind of like learn Photoshop and Figma and so on. And yeah, I guess I did used to play Minecraft and Call of Duty. These were my two absolute favorite games.
Yeah. I've played both.
Nice. Yeah. Call of Duty Black Ops 2 was my main game. Obviously, my parents didn't allow it, so during the day I played Minecraft. In the nights when my parents were asleep, I played Call of Duty.
That's the way. I started off. Back in the day, we had the sort of big two were Doom and Quake. So that's kind of where I got my chops on. And then I loved Grand Theft Auto. But now I asked my son the other day. I mean, I've packed my stuff away. I've still got an Xbox, but I don't, I haven't played as well. I'm a mom, and it's, not something I can do anymore. I'm busy. And like you say, I prefer doing this if I'm going to be on my machine. Then I'd rather be doing this.
Yeah.
But I said to him, he's only 13, and I said, come on, man, let's play Grand Theft Auto. And he's like, Mom, I'm 13. I have to be 16. I'm like, oh. So yeah. I'm waiting.
Yeah, I think it's like one thing that probably, now thinking about it, why gaming kind of lost its appeal for me is probably because I always loved being a competitive gamer. So when I played Minecraft or Call of Duty, I always did like multiplayer and tried to become better than all of my friends. And obviously there were a lot of friends to play with, and then you could kind of compete with them. And I think that was kind of like the thing that was the most fun for me. And then, like, I guess that kind of stopped, and now I wouldn't know like who to play with, or even if I play, then I don't even have somebody that I can beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the thing. My husband used to think it was so weird that I was like sort of an older girl who would like just go online randomly and play and be like,
no, I think it's cool.
Does that? But yeah, my son loves the fact that I still do. I play Fortnite with him now, and so that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, Fortnite is also, I think, a great game for like if you have your Fortnite community. It's so social. Like, people are always in the voice chats there, and like
it's so fun
playing together.
My husband plays. His brother plays. My husband's brother plays. They live, far apart, and they play with my son, and my son's friends join in. Then they do like round robin where you can, it's such a wonderful thing, today. I mean, back in the day when I gamed, it was like literally you on a, one of those like computers with the back that was this big. Okay. So we were saying, so do you have much time outside of, what you're doing here to maybe, go hiking?
Well, I mean,
you're in Germany. Where in Germany can you say?
I did move to Malta about a year ago, so now I'm in Malta. It's unfortunately there are no mountains to hike, but I did like during the winter. I spent 6 months in Cape Town. I'm going back to Cape Town in October, so there I went hiking every weekend.
Come say hi to me. I'm in Cape Town.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. You must come say I hike every day up the mountain where I live.
Now I recognize your accent. I thought there's always this thing like South Africans either sound South African or they
or
sound like they're from New Zealand.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Yeah, so I'm coming back to South Africa in October, and I'm going to stay until, who knows, maybe February, March, whatever. Like, I'm planning to stay there for another 6 months or so. So yeah, actually, a lot of our team is based in Cape Town. We have like most of our engineers are there. We have basically half of the team is in South Africa.
That's amazing. All right. Well, I'll
But yeah, so
see.
there you have some amazing hikes. Lion's Head, Table Mountain, so
Yeah.
many paths up the Table Mountain. So I did that a lot there.
Yeah.
But
All
yeah,
right. Well,
I also started like, I guess I'm not a developer, but I did start to kind of like learn coding over the past year or so, and it's so much fun. It's almost like playing a game, because you can see like how, like if you have some sort of problem and then you're trying to figure it out, and then you spend hours and hours and the time just runs by, and
mm,
then you find the fix, and it's so rewarding. It's like, oh,
yeah.
level up.
Yeah.
Nice, now I learned it.
Yeah. I've
So
heard that from people that it's like, that's why I suppose you find that so many people in this community are ex-gamers,
yeah,
because it is a simple, I mean, not as simple. It's a similar kind of, exactly how you're saying, I'm going to learn this step, and you're just playing with the back end really of what, you know.
yeah, no, it's really cool. And also me coming from like a UI design background, actually being able to build websites and like building like applications that I want, and like really understanding the whole structure of it and so on, is just so much fun, because it's kind of like just one more step into like coming from UI design, where you just create the ideas and create like a mock-up, to now actually being able to build these things. Yeah, it's so much fun. So I guess that kind of replaced my gaming needs, and that's what I do a lot in my free time now, is just like building small tools here and there, or building small features for Liquidium, like while our engineers are sleeping. Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
How many people are on your team?
We're I think we're 16 or 17 people.
That's quite big. That's a big team.
Yeah, I mean we're it's I guess comparatively it's still small for the company size, or like for the size of the protocol. We're trying to keep it as lean as possible, so everybody who is on the team has a real purpose. We like everybody's basically working to their limit. We're always trying to just
Right.
make everything as efficient as possible. I think this is like one of the things that um, that teams should do in order to just keep the output as high as possible, is to try to optimize processes as much as possible, so that
Mm,
nobody wastes time with doing repetitive things. So
yeah.
like basically everything that, like, and I said that like I love kind of playing around with building little tools. Something that we do in the team is everything where we see that it is something that could be automated, we are trying to automate it. So for example, a
Yeah.
balance sheet, instead of somebody going to all of the bank accounts and crypto wallets that we have and logging the balance sheet every week, we just have a script, and basically we're calling the APIs of all of our different bank accounts and centralized exchanges and crypto wallets, to just fill in the balance sheet automatically. So they're basically freed up some time and so on. So yeah, we're just trying to make it as efficient as possible. But I mean, if you compare it to something like Magic Eden, they have 120 employees or something like that,
Mm,
and are good. I mean, yeah, they have more chains that they're working on, but we're also like almost we're pushing similar volume to Magic Eden on
well,
Bitcoin. And then we're also working on a new cross-chain lending product since about a year now. So and that is with like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, and that's a whole new protocol. So yeah,
that's-
everybody, as I said, is kind of like working to their limits.
yeah.
But we're just trying to push as much as we can as a very lean team, to just reduce management overhead, to let everybody like work to their full creativity and to their
Mm,
maximum output.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that is probably, specifically in early days, it's the best way to run a business anyway, to kind of keep it lean and mean in the beginning, you know. and grow it out. So yeah, I think that's brilliant and exciting. And I think, what you got, keep growing as well. I love the fact that you've got new things going on. But yeah, okay. So let's, we go forward and then we come back. I'm like reining it back and going forward. So the fundraising side of things, right? You raised funds to kick this off, which obviously impressed your parents very much. That was the Bitcoin Startup Labs. Is that right? Is that where? So that was that sort of time. Let us know, how did that all happen?
Yeah,
And what's
exactly.
it like going through? I think for anybody who's listening, I love getting these little nuggets for people to use going forward, because obviously this is something that other investors who might have a great idea and be listening in and not quite sure where to go or what to do. So maybe just a little bit of that side as well.
Yeah. So we went through the Bitcoin Startup Lab. Back in the days, it was called Stacks Pre-Accelerator. So that was obviously still Stacks times. And the Stacks Pre-Accelerator ultimately became the Bitcoin Startup Lab. We were part of the first cohort. So basically the whole initiative was built. We applied for it. We got accepted. And then one other team that was actually in the Bitcoin Startup Lab as well, in the first cohort with us, is Bitflow. So we were kind of like born in the same cohort.
That's amazing.
And so these are obvious, like Bitflow, obviously also great friends. We still talk a lot and try to push the whole Bitcoin space forward together. Actually also met Jakob from Hermetica there. He wasn't building Hermetica at that time, but we met through the Stacks Pre-Accelerator. He came on as basically he did watch the demo day where we presented our pitch, and that's how we got in contact. So that was great for me as somebody who doesn't have a lot of, or like who didn't have a lot of prior experience with startups, obviously, to learn how to fundraise, how to build a startup, how to build a good business model, how to build a team, and so on. And then also in the Stacks Pre-Accelerator, I met Pete, which is now our CTO and co-founder. So he did work on a different product. He built like a music marketplace on Stacks, but then ended up joining me.
That's
and then
what I want. I'm gonna get hold of Pete, because maybe we can still build that.
yeah. No, I think that would be cool. He still has the name for it.
Really?
Yeah.
But I want to DM him and find out.
Yeah. No, and that was like great to get to know him, because obviously, like, I think my strength is in building a brand, talking to the people, and user experience and UI. So I kind of like covered that part. I built like a full-on mock-up. I did user interviews. I did all of our fundraising process, but I didn't have the technical experience. So that was basically where Pete came in. And I think our talents were very complementary, so that we ended up actually building Liquidium, and we couldn't have done it without him. I did go to the Pre-Accelerator with a friend of mine who is our CMO, Jay. So basically then the three of us were there together and built Liquidium. And then after that, we went to so that was the Stacks Pre-Accelerator. And then after that, you have the Stacks Accelerator. So the Stacks Accelerator is kind of like basically the top teams from the Pre-Accelerator go over into the Accelerator. And then that's where you actually get a little bit of funding from the Stacks Accelerator itself, as well as you will be presented to more investors. So we basically took the whole journey there. And then we started fundraising very early on with once we pivoted to Bitcoin with the ordinal lending product. The main challenge that we had when fundraising in the beginning was that none of the investors have heard of ordinals because it was so early. So basically, the pitches to the investors were like, we had a half an hour call. It was 20 minutes me explaining ordinals and why ordinals will succeed, and then 10 minutes talking about Liquidium. And obviously, like, it was very difficult to raise funds in that environment. But then we didn't give up. We continued building and we continued talking to investors. And then more and more investors started learning about ordinals. And then the early believers are basically now our investors. And still our cap table, I think, resembles some, like a lot of these very early Bitcoin focused companies, like, for example, UTXO Management, which is kind of like basically branched off of Bitcoin Magazine. Sora Ventures was a very early investor in the Bitcoin space. Portal Ventures did some of the earliest research reports in the space. They are an investor, and a bunch of others that kind of come from that space and were very early to ordinals. Asymmetric, Dan Held was a very early person to talk about ordinals. He came on as a angel investor and also with his fund. And then Domo was a very early investor. BitGod was an early investor.
Wow.
All of these people that were building in the space. So I think then slowly but surely, more and more people caught the ordinals bug. And then we had a really good time raising funds, and we're actually overextending our rounds. We planned to raise, I think, 1 million initially, ended up raising 2 million in the first round, and then immediately did a second round because there were so many people asking to come in after we published the first round, and then we did another round where we raised another 2 million, totaling 4 million that we raised, and that obviously helped a lot to speed up the development, hire some employees, and grow quickly.
That is a giant leap from $1 million to $4 million. So congratulations. Super cool. So, okay, we're talking about Liquidium. I mean, we've touched a bit of it, and I think most people listening would know, but let's just give, what is Liquidium? You know, I mean, we know what it is, but let's put it in a little box for anybody who's listening and thinking, what are they talking about?
So you have we have two things at Liquidium. The main thing that is live and has been live for the past almost 3 years now is kind of like what developed from the Stacks NFT lending platform. So that is the ordinal lending protocol that I've already talked about. We call that liquidium.wtf. We recently rebranded because that is kind of like our, I guess, degen focused product. Like all of ordinals, all of runes, all of BRC20 is kind of like meme coins and memes and stuff like that. So that's why we kind of like doubled down on that audience to not be too serious about it, to have fun, to also make our brand more memeable. We introduced a mascot for that and so on. So Liquidium WTF is our ordinal, runes, and BRC20 lending protocol. And that's a peer-to-peer.
Sorry, go for it. I just want to say that's where people loan or get the loans for.
Exactly. So, and that is a peer-to-peer lending protocol, which means the way it works is almost like, think of something like Craigslist, but for loans. So you have borrowers and lenders. You have people that need liquidity, and you have people that have liquidity. And basically the lenders, so the people that have liquidity, they are posting loan offers on Liquidium WTF. They're basically saying, hey, I'm willing to lend 0.1 Bitcoin to any OMB, or I'm willing to lend 0.2 Bitcoin to any node monkey or something like that. So they're basically posting loan offers on various ordinal collections and runes and BRC20s. And then the borrowers can come in, and if they have an OMB, for example, or if they have a Node Monkey, they can take that loan offer and basically put their Ordinal or Rune or whatever as collateral and borrow the Bitcoin, and they have to repay that Bitcoin. Or if they don't repay, they will lose their collateral. That is, so you kind of have like two sides of the market. You have the lenders who they basically just want to earn interest on their Bitcoin. And then you have the borrowers who need liquidity, and they don't want to sell their ordinals and runes and so on. So yeah, that's Liquidium WTF.
And
that's
those are quite short-term loans, right?
Correct.
As far as I remember. So okay, so it's not like you can go and think, all right, I'm going to buy my house and I'm going to use my 12 OMBs, because you're going to need to pay it back pretty quickly.
Yeah, correct. So it's obviously like Liquidium WTF is high risk, high reward, I would say. You can borrow a lot of money against your ordinals, usually something like between 80 and 90% loan to value ratio, which means if there is an ordinal that is worth 1 Bitcoin, you might even get a loan for 0.9 Bitcoin or something. And then it's like usually a 14-day or at max 30-day loan. Right. And for lenders, it's also very high interest. So like borrowers pay a lot of interest because there is a lot of risk involved for the lender. And then lenders get very high interest rates between 150 and 300% per year, basically, to provide these loans. And then obviously the lender has the risk that if the floor price of the ordinal collection goes down, the borrower doesn't really have an incentive to repay the loan, which means the lender might end up with an ordinal that is worth less than the actual loan. But that's a risk that the lenders take. And I mean, the default rate is quite low, so it's rare that people don't repay, because most of the time they want to keep their assets. But yeah, that it's a degen platform. That's why it's Liquidium WTF. Yeah. It's made by degens for degens.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so that's the one side of it.
Exactly. And then what I've said, like I've touched on it before, is for the past year, we have been kind of like thinking about the next step for us and the next product that we want to build. Because Liquidium WTF is in a very solid state where it has basically all of the features that people would want. We are still obviously working on it. We're pushing new features multiple times a week. But at the same time, we wanted to build something that can be much bigger. And that is Liquidium.fi. That is Liquidium cross-chain loans, essentially. So instead of it being a peer-to-peer loan marketplace, it's a liquidity pool-based lending platform akin to something like Aave. So Aave is probably the closest thing that you could compare to it. And basically what that means is, as a lender, as a liquidity provider, you can just deposit money there. There is no default risk for you. There is no risk of somebody not repaying or anything like that. You just earn constant yield on your assets that you provide. The interest rates are obviously much lower because the risk is just next to nothing. And then you can also borrow against basically the supplied assets. And you can borrow immediately, you can repay at any time. So these are basically perpetual loans, which means there is no expiration date on the loans. And this is actually something where you could borrow against your Bitcoin to buy a house, for example. Yeah. So yeah, and the main focus that we have here is obviously it being cross-chain and us being a Bitcoin company. We really wanted people to be able to borrow something like USDC or USDT on Ethereum or Solana against their native Bitcoin and vice versa. And that's really what Liquidium.fi is. We are going to start with native Bitcoin and USDT support, and then slowly adding more chains and more assets from the various chains. And yeah, so that is kind of like our next big project. That's where most of our engineers are working on right now. And yeah, The
launched
next
yet?
product.
Has that launched yet, or
No,
is that still?
the launch is going to be, we're aiming for October. So right now, like, it is actually, everything is pretty much done when it comes to the development. We're already testing it internally. We've already done a bunch of loans there and tested everything out. Right now, we're going through an auditing process just to make sure that everything is rock solid. We're working with one of the most reputable auditors there called Trail of Bits. They have audited many of the native blockchains. Actually, we just wanted to make sure that it's rock solid and there is no room for exploits or anything like that. Especially also because it is a cross-chain lending platform, so we are aware that there are just more attack vectors. Yeah, I mean, that is a absolutely massive market that we're tapping into, and we're really trying to compete with the large players like Aave here. And yeah, I mean, just to I guess illustrate the market size a little bit. Aave is currently the largest DeFi protocol in the world. They have just crossed $60 billion in TVL. So $60 billion are currently supplied on Aave in liquidity, and over $5 billion of these $60 billion are in wrapped Bitcoin. And that's wrapped Bitcoin. Wrapped Bitcoin is basically a bridged version of Bitcoin on Ethereum that is fully centralized. The wrapped Bitcoin bridge is a centralized bridge, which means you're giving up custody of your Bitcoin. You're now receiving wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum.
I can't.
And not only the trust assumptions are horrifying, but also the user experience. Because if you have Bitcoin, you probably have it on a centralized exchange or on a ledger or on some sort of a Bitcoin wallet. If you now want to participate in DeFi with your Bitcoin, you need to first know, where can I bridge my Bitcoin? What are the trust assumptions? How do I bridge? I need to connect like 2 wallets or send it to some weird address and then hope that I get the Bitcoin on Ethereum and stuff like that. And I have to go through all of these steps just in order to use DeFi with Bitcoin. Like, that shouldn't be the case. I should be able to use Bitcoin natively in my DeFi needs. And despite these big hurdles, there is over $5 billion in wrapped Bitcoin on Aave, which shows how desperate Bitcoiners are to participate in DeFi. And that's basically the market that we're addressing. Like, we are giving you an opportunity to use your native Bitcoin, to connect your Bitcoin wallet, to connect your ledger, to connect your Xverse wallet, to connect whatever Bitcoin wallet you have to Liquidium directly, and then to just use your native Bitcoin there. Without having to go through centralized bridges or tedious steps in order to just use the protocol.
Yeah. I know, that's the thing. It's that clunky business just puts me, I get anything wrapped. I mean, I don't think I've ever had wrapped. I think I'd used wrapped Ethereum once, and I was just like, what in God's name even is this? So yeah, and especially not Bitcoin, because it just feels like even having it on a centralized exchange feels weird to me. I kind of want to really focus on, and I think that's, why I like Stack so much, was because it just felt like it was building in those early days with the wallets and things that, for us going forward. So, okay. And then my last question to you is going to be, unless I've sort of missed something from your side, which, we can have a chance to go over that after this, but I'm fascinated at the moment with AI, and I'm writing a lot of articles about it. I'm thinking a lot about it, and I just would like to get your perspective in how you are planning on kind of just making sure that that it's included, whether it's from a security perspective or from a building perspective or for management or managing,
Yeah,
What do you
good question. I'm a huge AI fan,
Me
and
too.
I spend way too much time on AI things. Like, I probably have like 3 AI models running locally on my computer. In case I ever have no internet or whatever, then I can run my local models and stuff like that. And I said earlier, like about the like efficiency and like optimizing processes and saving time where it can be saved. And I think there are like obviously a lot of things that require humans to like intervene and like quality control and stuff like that. But there are also a lot of things that AI can just do. For example, like I'm thinking, like, I guess I don't really see AI being integrated into Liquidium from a user perspective right now. Obviously, making Liquidium compatible with AI agents, like if somebody has, for example, an AI running that does the trading for them or whatever, like we have like SDKs, APIs. We even have an MCP for our analytics. So AI models can basically interact with Liquidium if they want to, but we're mostly using it for internal processes. Like for example, I talked about the balance sheet earlier. So the balance sheet is basically just a script that is like filling in the balance sheet every week. And then I have an AI model that basically reads the balance sheet every week, and then it also checks all of the transactions from our bank account and all of the transactions from our crypto exchanges and so on, and gives me a financial report every week. So every week I get like an email from my AI agent that gives me an exact overview of like where did we spend money, where did we increase expenses compared to last week, what were the main expenses for this week, and so on. So that's super helpful and just, I guess, makes life easier. And then also we use AI in our code review processes. So basically, if an engineer is creating a pull request on GitHub to implement some feature, there is I think we have 3 AI review bots that are basically checking every single change and then giving feedback on the changes and pointing out potential errors and stuff like that, which just reduces the amount of code review that we have to do a lot. And even if we do code reviews, sometimes you will just overlook some like syntax issues and stuff like that, where the AI agents are great at spotting like these small things, like for example, a missing comma or something like that. So yeah, we are using AI a lot. We're like, we even have like in our internal team meetings, we always have like an AI summary thing running, and then after the meeting, it gets sent to an AI agent, where then it basically, if it detects any tasks that are not in our project management board right now, it will add them. Or if we give an update on some task, it will basically add context to the task if it detects something that was talked about in the meeting. Say, for example, somebody gives an update and says like, oh, I'm currently working on this and this, and maybe it's not in the in progress state yet. I will basically put it in progress based on the meeting context. So yeah, we're using AI a lot, but just to make our team more efficient.
You know, we've got a lot going on in Stacks at the moment. They've started a Stacks AI guild, and obviously, I think it's everywhere because there's just this explosion of sort of trying to get the knowledge, because it's not like you can just go to a place where everyone says, okay, go there and learn. Those, you know, we're still, it's every day, new things are happening, and trying to gather that knowledge feels difficult to me. So I just feel there's such a gap here of sort of sharing it, but it goes too fast. But so I just want to ask you, while you are here, what do you use to do that? Are you building those yourself? Is that what you are recommending? Or are you picking those sort of here, there, and everywhere?
So there are great like tools that you can use. One thing that we use a lot is called N8N. So it's N8 number 8N. And it's basically an open source framework that allows you to basically create like if this then that things. Like for example, if a new meeting summary is added to Google Drive, then read the
Yes.
the content from it, and then check all of the current issues in our project management dashboard. And then if you find something that is missing, add it, and stuff like that,
That's
using
great.
AI. So N8N is a great tool to build that, and it's fully open source, which means you can run it locally. And you can also even use AI to kind of like vibe code a workflow. So that is quite useful. A bunch of things we also have just done internally. But yeah, I mean, nothing out of the ordinary, I would say. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of MCPs. I don't know if you're familiar with MCPs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
through my stuff.
yeah. So MCPs are great. So I think that is actually something that I think should be more used for like niche things, because obviously AI is being trained on a huge data set, and the more it reads about something, the more familiar it is about it. So for example, if you tell an AI to build HTML or JavaScript code or even Python code or something like that, or like use the React framework or whatever, it is very familiar with that and can do a great job at it. But if you tell it like build a Bitcoin script to facilitate a transaction, it will just hallucinate some random shit, because it has barely heard about Bitcoin script. So basically, MCPs are great because then the AI can basically get context from elsewhere. Like it can call, it can search, for example, for a function, and then it gets documentation about that, and then it can read the documentation and can build stuff with that context from the documentation. And
Yeah.
then the general quality of AI, like of AI code, for example, is much better if you have that context added. So I think it would be great for stacks, for Bitcoin, for ICP, for whatever there is, to have like proper AI optimized documentation, and that documentation available as an MCP, so that basically it can just like get the right context and build the things correctly. I think that would be something that is really missing in the space right now.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you've mentioned that, because that's something that needs to get put out there more and more and more, so that, because there's, that's the thing. I think a lot of builders that you meet, they're looking for, the ones that aren't hooked up, are looking for something amazing or incredible to build. And I agree with you, because what I think, and maybe I don't understand it enough, but you kind of got this, it's very centralized when you look at, OpenAI, the big four, the big three, Um, now that needs to move over into, specifically if we're talking about, what you guys are doing, it needs to be like closed off, protected. You can't have it just coming in and being able to take that and zoot back out again with its knowledge, and then multiply that everywhere. Surely there's some security risks that, well, I mean, there are security risks that are heading our way pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. Well, so I guess this is really like the whole AI race is like we have to thank China for
Yeah.
for what they did, because the American models like Claude and ChatGPT and so on, they are obviously um, closed source, very centralized. Like you always have to give into their infrastructure. You have to provide data to Anthropic and OpenAI and so on, and you don't really know what they're doing behind closed doors. Especially also with OpenAI, they have that court ruling thing with the New York Times right now, which means ChatGPT needs to keep your chat history. Even if you delete your chat history on ChatGPT, it won't be deleted from their server, because there is a court ruling in the US right now that OpenAI has to keep that data. And OpenAI doesn't want to do it, but they have to do it because there is currently a lawsuit by New York Times that basically OpenAI would like violate copyright things, and therefore OpenAI has to keep the chat logs. Anthropic luckily doesn't have it, so Anthropic at least states that they delete the data if you delete it. And apparently their APIs are also like zero retention, but it's always something that you don't know, like it's behind closed doors. And the reason why I said like China is great is because the Chinese models wanted to compete with, or like the Chinese companies wanted to compete with the American companies. And I think DeepSeek R1 was the first model that had a huge impact and built a open source, open weights model that was on par with the state of the art from OpenAI. And DeepSeek, while they are still at DeepSeek R1, they have had some updates. They have improved it quite a bit. But ever since then, we have we got some models like Qwen. Qwen 3 is currently one of the most capable models in the market. Like it's state of the art. It's up to like it's on par with Claude 4 when it comes to its intelligence. And so it's like the Chinese models that have come out now, they are basically on par with OpenAI and Anthropic models, but they are fully open source and open weights. So you have like Qwen 3, you have Kimi K2, you have GLM 4.5, and obviously DeepSeek models and a bunch of other models. And
I see where you're going with this now. Now that this information is available everywhere, or to anyone, open source, it's like they can build anything to come and attack anybody.
and you can like I think like the real benefit from this is there is competition in the open source space now, and open source and open weight means that you can run it locally. So for example, I have a computer in a different room here that is just running an AI model and also some other things. And it's completely local. So nobody can access it. Nobody can see it. It's all locally running on that computer. So basically I can use ChatGPT without sending anything out to a different server. I'm just running my Chinese model locally on my computer, and nobody can see what I'm doing. And I think that is really the huge unlock. And that's why we need to thank China, because they brought these massively capable open source models that everybody can run themselves. So you don't need to send your data to anybody else. And that obviously then makes it super secure. Like you don't need to, like if you're, for example, a healthcare clinic or something like that, you're dealing with sensitive data and you don't want to send that data to OpenAI and Anthropic. So now with like small local models and stuff like that, you can just run that on a computer that they have in their clinic, and they can actually use AI. And also it being fully open source and open weights means that you can actually train it. Like you can fine tune it to specific needs. So for example, a health clinic might want to have a very specialized model for health stuff. And so you can do that with an open source and open weights model. So yeah, I think the benefits of it not being open closed source are fantastic, and we are not like limited to these giant companies that do everything behind closed doors anymore. Obviously, I'm not like, I guess keep that with a grain of salt. If you're using the Chinese models on their websites, you're still sending your data to China. So you shouldn't do that.
It's not AI advice. It's not financial advice. It's not medical advice.
Exactly.
And it's not AI advice.
So you shouldn't use the Chinese models online. If anything, you should download the Chinese models and run them locally on your computer.
Okay. And how would one do that? Obviously, they'd get a computer and they would go, where do you go to do that?
So
Is
the
it easy?
main the easiest one is it's Olama. So it's Ollama. It's just like llama, but just
I'm
with
gonna write it
with
down
an
and put
O.
it in the thread.
Um,
Ollama.
yes, .com, and then that is basically
I'll
like
put it in
there
the
you
thread.
can download. You basically download a chat interface similar to ChatGPT, and you can download every single AI model that is out there. So all of the Chinese open source models, as well as Llama, which is an open source model by Meta, so by Facebook, and then also OpenAI actually just released an open source model yesterday. That was the first open source model by OpenAI. Actually, no, they did open source GPT-2, but yeah, the new one is great, and you can actually also run it locally on your computer. And then you have it fully local. You can turn off your internet, and you can just still chat with AI.
Wow. And does that knowledge, is that still updated from the global knowledge base that sort of an AI is built from or on?
Well, I mean, every AI model, even the big models like GPT-4o and like Claude and whatever, they have a knowledge cutoff date. So if you ask them, for example, about a recent event that happened, like if you ask ChatGPT about something that happened even 6 months ago, it will probably not know about it unless you enable like web search. And you can still do web search with local models. So you can like enable web search, and then basically your local model will search the internet. But at the end of the day, every single large language model is cut off at some time, and that's the same thing for the open source models. And obviously there are new models being released like every month or so, and you can then just download the latest model. Then it's probably even smarter and knows more about it.
I'm so fascinated with all of this. I can't tell you. It's like my day went from reading about Bitcoin and crypto all day to like reading about AI and space exploration. It's like I can't even go to a dinner party anymore because nobody wants to talk to me. This is all I can talk about.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. I said it, I think, last week on my show. There's a Bart Simpson meme, or used as the characters of Bart Simpson. And it's one of the little kids, and they're throwing him in the window, and he's flying across the lounge. And it says, "My kidnapper's returning me after listening to me talk about Bitcoin for 3 hours." And it's like, yeah, that would be me. Anyway.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. I know, now I just nod and smile at whatever's going on around. All right. So, yeah, I think we've gone a little bit over time, but I definitely could chat to you for a lot longer. So I hope to have you back on soon, maybe after October, maybe even in person in Cape Town. We can have a real in-person conversation.
Yeah, that would be great.
When you're here. Yeah.
I mean, I will probably be in Cape Town by the time we launch our next product, so we can then do an in-person interview. Yeah, absolutely.
That would be my first one. Look how big my smile is getting. Oh, that's amazing. All right, Robin. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really had a lot of fun chatting to you. And like I said, next time you see Robin and me, we will be doing it in person. I've hooked him into that. So yeah, thank you very much. I don't know if there's anything that you want to say just before you head off. Anything that we might have forgotten, anything coming out, anything people should watch for?
I think we covered pretty much everything. We have a staking platform coming for the Liquidium token, so I think that's something that's exciting as well. I just posted a tweet about this, kind of like me just recording the how it works. So if you want to have a look at that, feel free to check out my latest tweet. But yeah, other than that, I think we covered everything.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll head over and have a look. If you do have ordinals and you are feeling a bit degen-y, head over to Liquidium. No, not that. Don't head over to Liquidium 5 if you're feeling
You can head over. So Liquidium.fi already has a landing page for the cross-chain loan. So if you want to learn more about that, go to liquidium.fi. And then if you're into the Bitcoin degen things, Bitcoin native assets, go to liquidium.wkf.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and then you can borrow on your ordinals or lend. So, and you could get a really good deal. I remember you saying last time, because sometimes if you're very lucky, you can score an amazing ordinal.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So
I've even thought about trying it out. I love my ordinals, let me tell you. So I'm gonna think about it.
Obviously, always no financial advice, but I mean, it's a lot of fun playing around with it. So I mean, feel free to check it out.
Yeah. Please read the below. It says no financial advice here. We're just having fun. All right, super. Well, I hope you have a beautiful day further. Thank you very much for joining me here today. And to everyone listening, if this did spark, I just want to remind you again what I said in the beginning. If it did spark something in you, if it did make you think a little bit differently about Bitcoin, if you felt inspired, and you do want to continue to support independent Bitcoin media, then I'm going to be popping, if you go over to the YouTube, I'm going to be popping something in the comments where you'll be able to support us. We don't use advertising, and this goes for Deorganized Media, Peace Love, who is in the background producing, and Bitcoin Live DP. So just thanks very much to everybody who does support us here. Thank you to everybody watching. We are here every single Thursday at 12 p.m. ET. So please join us. Lots of fun guests each week. All right. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Robin. Have a beautiful day. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.